Hey, you. Thanks for joining me. So, until fairly recently, I was under the impression that me being cruel to myself, saying mean things to myself, was totally fine because I wasn't being cruel to other people. I was being nice to other people. So, why does it matter that I was treating myself like absolute crap? And I have come to change my mind on that. I now think we all need to find ways to be kinder to ourselves, not only because it benefits ourselves, but also to benefit the world around us. And this model that I'm going to talk about today, self compassion, it's over 20 years old in terms of a studied thing. And it's something that I had not really thought much of or heard much of, or like I might have heard the words self compassion before, but I didn't really understand the model itself. Just a quick disclaimer that none of this is mental health advice. None of this is to replace any help from a mental health professional. If you are starting this and you get a very strong emotional response, really ease into this. It can sometimes bring up a lot of complicated emotions, especially if you have maybe been really cruel to yourself in the past, or if you've had history of other people treating you very cruelly in the past, especially in the beginning. It can be very tough. I will say, even for myself, as I talk about this stuff, I sometimes get emotional. If it is something that does hit you in that way, you are not alone. Ease into things. Do not force your way through these things. So, what is self compassion? What is this video about? So, self compassion is a term that was defined by Dr. Kristen Neff, and this term has been used for over 20 years. And it kind of originated from some Buddhist teachings. And it's basically the idea of compassion turned inward. So, what is compassion? Compassion is the sympathetic awareness of distress and the desire to alleviate it. Literally translated from Latin as to suffer with. Self compassion is turning awareness and desire to alleviate suffering inwards towards our. It's just acknowledging that there's crap going on and then also desiring to improve things for ourselves. Within self compassion, there's three components that should all be present. So we've got mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness. For mindfulness, we are talking about acknowledging our pain and suffering in a balanced way. So just acknowledging what is actually going on without ignoring or over exaggerating. So we are being present with it, but we don't want to exaggerate and be like, I have messed up so badly. No one else has ever messed up the same way that I have before. I'm literally the worst person ever. You get the point. It's about acknowledging just here is what is going on. Here is how I am feeling. And then for common humanity, we've got awareness that you are not alone in your suffering. So as much as we can feel alone, we can feel super isolated, we are not alone. We really are all suffering on this planet together. And that's one thing that unites every single one of us. Then we have self-kindness. So this is what probably comes to mind when you hear self-compassion, is that self-kindness side of things. So we are being kind to ourselves, supporting ourselves. We are acknowledging what we're going through. We are encouraging ourselves. We're kind of being our own friend, basically. And we are trying to not be cruel or judgmental or ignoring our struggles. Self-compassion is essentially us trying to be our own pal, using the tools of self-kindness, mindfulness, and common humanity. As cheesy as these elements of self compassion sound, believe me, I feel like this all sounds so cheesy. Research has shown a lot of positive traits in people who are more self compassionate. And when they do these studies, they're usually looking at self compassion in one of three ways. So they either look at what people's baseline levels of self compassion are, and then try and kind of look at specific outcomes, or they'll look at people who are put into a self compassion mindset in a lab setting, or by following people who learn self compassion in a more long form course. So it's usually a multiple week course that they follow people through. So, for the sake of efficiency, I'm going to highlight just a few of the things in these studies because it's a lot. There's like thousands of studies that have looked into self compassion. On the self compassion website, there's a list of traits that have kind of shown up in the research as being more prominent or less prominent with people who are higher in self compassion. And from that list, to me, there's kind of a few things that stand out. It's better for us in terms of how we adapt and deal with challenges. It's better for us in terms of how we are to other people, how we treat other people, and then also that growth in alignment with our goals seems to be better when we are self-compassionate. One of the areas of the research that interests me the most is in regards to self-compassion and motivation. So I am someone who has recognized in myself over the last year or so that I am a very shame-motivated person. So a lot of things that I have done were more out of shame as a motivation than that it was really something that I like wanted to do. It was just like I would do things because I did not want to fail at them or because I did not want to feel the shame of being a failure. So I've been trying to figure out how I can kind of flip that a little bit and try to be motivated by things that are more in alignment with what I actually want to do. But I had not really found anything until I saw this self compassion stuff. Self compassion research seems to show that actually people who are self compassionate are often making changes that they want to make. They're often doing things that they want to do. So I just recently have learned about this stuff. I'm just trying to implement this into my life. So I don't know for sure how it will influence my motivation, but that's the area that I am most interested to see if there are any changes as I kind of try to keep this self compassion stuff in the forefront of my mind. So let's have a little chat about how we can actually implement this into our lives. You can absolutely get started with this with spending zero money and just getting yourself familiar with what self-compassion is and how you can implement it with little exercises, what the elements are. So I would say check out the self-compassion website. It is Dr. Kristin Neff's website, and it is fantastic, has a great overview of what self-compassion is, exercises on there, all that stuff is free. So Dr. Kristin Neff has written books, but there's also a lot of books written by other doctors, psychologists, other specialists in this area, and a lot of those are also listed on Kristin Neff's self-compassion website. So I would say absolutely check that out, see what resonates with you, see what sounds like it would be best for you, and try that. Another thing that you can do is just pop on YouTube, look for self-compassion meditation, self-compassion exercises. There's lots and lots of videos on self-compassion on YouTube. There is a course that Dr. Neff has worked on with another specialist, and that course, I believe, is a paid course. However, it does seem like a very legit course. It is what they use for some of the studies. So it's been something that's definitely being like tested. So for me, I don't think I'm going to do any of that really, really structured stuff. I do want to get consistent with it because in terms of a lot of the studies that have looked into this, consistency for at least a good chunk of time, like a few weeks, is something that can really help with getting more self-compassionate. So for me, I do want to get more consistent in like always checking in with that self-compassion mindset, especially if I notice myself doing some negative self-talk, so thinking negatively about myself. I want to start looking at what I'm doing through a self-compassion lens. So I'm going to probably try and just like put reminders, like visual reminders of self-compassion around me. And also just like asking myself what it is that I need. Do I need to be kind and supportive to myself, or do I need to like take action to help myself? Yeah, I think having little check-ins with myself is what I will most likely be doing. Overall, I am a huge fan of this model. I do plan on implementing it into my own life. I hope that you do try implementing this into your own life, because really, what is the worst that happens if you actually treat yourself kindly?